Good evening. Welcome to the April meeting of the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board of Directors. This evening our agenda is fairly light. We have our normal opening ceremonies, and then we will have a period for public comment. And our consent calendar includes minutes of 2 meetings. And one action item this evening is a resolution to adopt the environmental sustainability policy. And then we'll have a report on service changes occurring in May, and then reports from our general manager and directors' reports. And with that, I will call the meeting to order, and I will ask Linda to take attendance, and I see that we have a quorum. And I will call on Director Bush to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call on our general manager for our safety moment before we start the...
Thank you. So typically we share the safety moment that we have at staff level for the different theme of the month, but I've realized we've never talked about, from a safety perspective, if there is an event that we need to evacuate the building, that the board doesn't know where they need to go. So today's safety moment is, in the event we need to evacuate the building, our rally point is the north block on the other side of the transit center. So your job is to evacuate and move as expeditiously as possible. Look for one of us, and we'll get the head count in attendance. So otherwise, we'll have people going all over, and we won't have accountability. So that's your safety moment for today.
Okay. And do we have any announcements? I have the one I make every meeting, and that is we have 135 days until we start Saturday service. And any other announcements?
No.
Any changes to the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a change to the agenda, or add an item to the agenda. And that would be that this year only, that we move Alan's evaluation period to June rather than when it is now. It's August or September, I think.
Okay. We'll put that on the agenda as item G2 then.
Okay.
And with that, we have reached the period of public comment. Has anyone signed up for public comment? Anyone in the audience wish to comment at this time? If not, we will move on to the consent calendar.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And we'll move on to our action items. And I'll call on our general manager to introduce the first.
Great. Thank you. So the item before you tonight is a resolution to have the board adopt and establish an environmental sustainability policy statement. So one of the district's strategic priorities in their strategic plan is to be an environmentally responsible organization. An action item in this priority is to establish a board-adopted environmental sustainability policy statement. And our sustainability committee has established this task as part of its annual work plan. So before I talk about that, I'd like to just recognize and acknowledge our sustainability committee. It's made up of employees throughout the organization. So I happen to be the chair of that committee. In addition, we have Scott Kirkland from Technology Services, Dan Knaus, the procurement and finance, Misha O'Reilly from Trip Choice, Michael Majors from administration department, John Horsch from maintenance, and in the audience tonight, John Love, a transit operator, an active and stalwart and big supporter of electric vehicles, and really is pushing the committee to make us move towards that. And we meet monthly to talk about sustainability matters and how to move the district forward in its different sustainability aspects, and they all do a great job of doing that. But anyways, the committee prepared a draft statement for the board to review at your April work session. And we used that feedback from the board to finalize a proposed statement, which is shown in attachment A, which I'd like to go over that now. So you can see it is board policy number 119, titled Environmental Sustainability Policy Statement. And the purpose of the statement is really to provide guidance to the district to implement environmentally supportive actions, behaviors, and activities. Yeah. In section 119.02 has an opening paragraph, and it talks about the goal to carry out our mission of connecting people with places through safe, friendly, and reliable public transportation services in a way that establishes the district as a local, regional, and industry leader in environmental sustainable practices. We'll do this by planning, constructing, operating, and maintaining the district's equipment, facilities, and services in a way that protects both the mission and the environment. And the policy statement is really a written representing a commitment of the district's board, the management, employees, and all of the contractors who operate on our behalf to be responsible stewards of our environment and natural resources. We've also identified in 119.03 some general guidelines to ensure our actions and behaviors follow. They are to demonstrate this commitment. We will look for opportunities to minimize pollution and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, work to utilize natural resources more efficiently, explore and utilize new technologies when they are available to us and make sense, strive to build and operate our system with the utilization of sustainable features and practices, seek LEED certification or equivalent whenever possible, comply with and when possible exceed all local, state, and federal laws, ordinance, regulations concerning environmental management, provide the necessary training and education and information to all employees and contractors and volunteers working on behalf of the district so they can help carry out the policy, maintain a commitment to the continual reduction of the district's environmental impact. And then we added I, as a result of the discussion we had at the work session, that we should lead by example and encourage our community partners in other jurisdictions to enhance their sustainability commitment. I would add that we are also a Marion County Earthwise certified sustainable organization, and we are also signatories on APTA's, the American Public Transportation Association's sustainability commitment, and we are working through the process to achieve our bronze level of certification. So with that, the Sustainability Committee does recommend that the board adopt Resolution 2019-04, which establishes Policy 119, an environmental sustainability statement.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, Director Lincoln?
I move that we adopt Resolution 2019-04, establishing an environmental sustainability policy statement.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? No discussion? Then,
Well, I'm sorry.
okay, Director Rogers.
Well, I had my discussion in email and expressed a small concern of one part of it. Overall, I like it, but just that one little bit that I mentioned. And I don't need to go into the whole long, lengthy detail now.
Okay. I believe that has been distributed to all the directors, so they have that in mind when they vote on this then.
Right.
So, any other discussion? Director Bush?
I concur with the same wording that Director Rogers is talking about, and that using the term greenhouse gases is a redundant issue in regards to the project as a whole. But I do have another question as well. You talked about APTA. Let me see what you said. And that we're trying to maintain our bronze level certification. What does that entail?
We don't yet have it. It's the next level up. We are striving to work towards it. So the Sustainability Committee is reviewing the requirements and criteria. So the sustainability has multiple levels. The lowest level, which we're at now, is signatory. And there's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. So we have signed on. We have met those qualifications, and part of that is having it in our strategic plan and committing to certain things, establishing a committee, educate the workforce. And there's additional criteria that we're now working and evaluating on to go to the bronze level. And when we achieve that level, which hopefully will be this year, we'll bring that to the board to show what we've done. If the board would like, we can schedule some time and brief you on what the different levels and criteria is, if the board would like that.
Yeah, that would be great, and I'd like to see how our sustainability policy fits into that. You know, if we are meeting requirements through that, if there's extraneous things here that aren't necessary or are necessary, and how that works.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that the sustainability commitment should be a limiting factor or for what we as an organization choose to do or not to do.
Director Lincoln?
I would like to address the concern of a couple of the board members regarding including the commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. I think that words matter and that our statement needs to include a commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for any number of reasons. And of course, we know that CO2 is contributing to climate change by warming up the earth. Transportation accounts for about 30% of the CO2 which is released into the atmosphere. And as a transportation entity, Cherriots can make a significant impact to reduce fossil fuel emissions in our area by moving toward vehicles that don't burn fossil fuels. And in fact, the district has been working on that, towards that goal for some time. We apply to FTA for grants for no and low emission vehicles, I think yearly, don't we? Or very frequently. And the FTA, according to federal statutes, in order to review those grants, needs to consider the quality and extent to which our application demonstrates how the proposed project will reduce direct carbon emissions. One of our recent applications pointed out that the grant would allow the district to remove older CNG fuel buses and deploy zero-emission battery electric buses in their place, which reduces energy consumption and harmful emissions, including emissions of greenhouse gas. This is in our application. That's the purpose of making these applications for low and no emission vehicles. In addition, the district has a vehicle acquisition policy which requires our staff to consider low and no emission vehicles when we're purchasing new ones, and to consider the quantity of greenhouse gases that would be produced by a new vehicle and factor that into the decision to buy it or not. So we want to make sure that those efforts continue and that we can, we've got some board policy and factor and focus behind that. So in addition, of course, you know, the state of Oregon adopted a goal to reduce greenhouse gas emission levels by certain dates, certain percentages. And the statute makes it a policy for local governments, state and local governments and everyone, to prepare for the effects of global warming, to reduce the social, economic, and environmental effects of global warming. Because we know that as the climate changes, they're going to have a tremendous impact on our environment, our economic and social and health. So if we're going to even try to get close to the state goals, it's important for Cherriots to have a policy statement from the board which specifically focuses on greenhouse gas emissions, so that there's a clear intent and commitment to do what we can do in our organization. This policy statement commits the district to look for opportunities to minimize pollution excuse me, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and it becomes part of our strategic plan. It also sends a clear message to the rest of the community and other jurisdictions that we take the impacts of climate change seriously, and decisions like that can make a big difference. So I urge the board's support of the policy as it is.
Yes, Director
And
Thompson.
I'd just like to give the definition of greenhouse gases. According to EPA, gases that heat that trap heat in the atmosphere is a simple definition of that. That's what carbon does. And carbon is the most of the entities that go up there.
Thank you. Other comments?
Thank you, Kathy, for doing that research.
Very good.
Are we ready for a vote? Director Evans?
Just walking in like this, I apologize for being late, but there was no way I was going to get here through traffic. I did have a response to the letter. That's the topic, right? I haven't heard what you've said, but I just need to share that my son works for the Smithsonian in marine biology, and his experience in the South Pacific from greenhouse gases coming from China has changed the DNA of coral shrimp in a 5-year period of time, so that the shell comes out a different color. And that's just a small little piece of the impact. And I think that anyone that says that we don't have an impact on the environment and that the greenhouse gas term should not be included is ignoring the facts. And so that's my feeling on it, and I support the way it's written.
Okay, and we do have a motion on the
Yeah. Could you repeat
board.
it?
The motion is on page 13.
Okay.
It's, I move the board adopt resolution number 2019
Oh, okay, I know that
04.
one. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
that motion is active right now.
I apologize for being late.
So do we have additional comments? Then we're ready for, oh, excuse me, yes, Director Rogers.
Well, I kind of go back and forth with this, but I do like all the other aspects of it, and I am for having a policy that deals with this type of thing.
Yeah. I appreciate the effort that's gone into the whole project. Yes, we do need to have a statement, and we do need to let our community know that we are concerned about this, and we're not just running our buses to run our buses. We have multi-purposes, and sometimes some details are questionable or whatever, but overall, the whole policy, I think, is agreeable.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments? Then we're ready to vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So we have one opposed. And motion carries. And I will call on Director Thompson to introduce the additional item on our action.
Yes, we normally evaluate Alan's performance after the new fiscal year starts. But this year, since chances are there's going to be 4 new board members, rather than have the 4 new board members and 3 existing board members evaluate Alan, I would move that we move his evaluation to June, so that the present board, the ones that know him, have an opportunity to evaluate him.
Thank
You
you.
need a second, Jared?
Yes.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any comments? I think it's self-explanatory, but
I think it's a really sensible idea. It will allow new board members to spend time evaluating rather than getting something to evaluate a month after they start on the board.
other comments? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And we'll move on now to our information report on the May service change. And I'll call on our general manager to introduce that topic.
I'd ask Senior Planner Chris French to come forward and present the report.
Good evening, President Krebs, members of the board. I'm here to provide the briefing on the May service change. The service change is a fairly small one this time. Not a lot of changes. We're doing a lot of work for September, but we do have a couple. We are doing some route time modifications on the Route 11. We did some time point camera reviews for the Route 11 in the fall, and now we're implementing those time changes to help with the on-time performance of the Route 11. We are also working on changing the Route 91 and 92. Those are two routes that provide service to Rock West and Garden services. Those work sites used to have separate start times. We've worked with them and they've changed their schedule, and so we're able to use one bus to do both of those trips in one trip, taking to Rock West and then Garden, and then picking up at Rock West and then picking up at Garden, which is a better use and not having two buses running to the two locations. So we are doing that for May. And then for the regional system, we have done a little bit of adjusting the schedule for the time that it's been in between each of the communities for the Polk County Flex. And with that, those are our service change for May, and I would be happy to answer any questions for you at this time.
Do we have any questions? Well, thank you. It looks like we don't have any huge things to worry about, just a little tweaking of the system.
That is correct. We've got a lot of things going on where we're making lots of stuff for September, which we're really excited about. But as far as the service change for May, it's fairly insignificant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're already through to the general manager's report.
Hey, thank you. So I do have several items to report. First, so recall a few weeks ago we had Transit Day at the Capitol, which we had a nice turnout of agencies. We did it a little bit different this year because the last long session was the transportation bill, and we were kind of fully engaged. And so we were kind of asked by the Transportation Committee kind of be a little light this time because they had so many other things going on at the Capitol, and there wasn't really much to report because we're all just now trying to get our plans going. But we did have several of the agencies and the Oregon Transit Association have information booths, so staff and legislators could learn about the different services provided. And as part of that, the day prior, I testified in front of the Joint Committee on Transportation as the OTA president, as well as the Cherriots general manager, giving an OTA update and kind of the plans for Cherriots.
Sorry about that.
The plans for Cherriots enhancement services, as well, along with Doug Kelsey, the TriMet general manager, and the Coos Bay general manager, transit service. And we followed ODOT's staff presentation. We gave a macro overview, and then we were focusing on our particular areas. So that worked out nicely as a kind of a two-day transit update at the Capitol. Last week I attended the APTA CEO seminar, which also included a full day in my role on the APTA Legislative Steering Committee, really advancing APTA's recommendations for the reauthorization bill. We're at version 4.0 on our way to hopefully the plan is 6.0 gets approved by the APTA Board of Directors, but we have additional meetings coming up next month. So I serve on that committee representing the small operators within throughout the nation and making sure that our interests are part of the recommendation plan. And I can tell you we've been pretty impactful, even to the point of getting as priority number 2 after a long-term transportation bill, the restoration of the 40-40-20 funding splits, which right now we're the 20 part of that. 40 is capital improvement grants, 40% is state of good repair, and 20% is bus and bus facilities. Currently, the FAST Act has the bus and bus facilities at 14%. So we've got commitment from APTA to make that recommendation number 2 to restore that. And it has a plan, along with some other important parts for us. I think Director Lincoln might talk about a little bit, but SCAT's released its Regional Transportation System Plan for public comment today. There is a public hearing scheduled on May 28th, and I think I'll leave the rest if you want to make any comments on that. Yesterday was Administrative Professional Days, and we took some time to recognize the clerk of the board for the outstanding work that she does on behalf of the district and behalf of you. And today was a big day. So first it was Take Your Child to Work Day. We had, I think the final count was about 36 or so children from employees, either they were the mother, father, or grandpa or grandma. So we had them here for a while. We took them on a tour of Del Webb, had some fun activities there, ran them through the bus wash, which is always a highlight. Took them to the Kaiser Transit Center, and then culminated the day back here because today was also APTA's National Get On Board Day, which is really promoting riding the bus. And so our communications division led the effort in getting the word out. You've probably seen the promotions on social media, but it was all highlighted today by a visit by Caesar, the No Drama Llama, who came and welcomed kids as they got on the bus. So Stephen Custer has an all preface. It's a rough cut because it was just 2 hours ago of a little preview video there to kind of give you a flavor of Caesar. It's about 30 seconds. Not sure what the final head count may have been, but there was people there the entire 2 hours getting pictures. And one person who got their picture was Director Lincoln, and you can take a look at it right over there. We also got a picture of her not driving the bus, but pretending she was driving the bus. That was one of our brand new buses that we had for display for people to look at. So with that, I think Director Kelly has a question.
It was a comment about Caesar, the No Drama Llama. Caesar looks much happier than he did in January when I saw him out on the Capitol Mall when it was raining and he was sort of bedraggled. So he really looked pretty today for us. So it's good that we had a great day.
Yeah, it worked out nice that it was Take Your Sons and Daughters to Work Day as well as Get On Board Day. And yeah, people were having a good time out there. Yeah, so thanks to the Communication Division for leading that effort. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Oh, no, if I could, I guess it was just a comment. So tonight was a little light, but be prepared. Budget committee starts next week, and so we have that process, and we're putting together the packet as we speak. So now that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. My report, basically, I attended the board and work session, meeting and work session, the chamber forum, the city club meeting, the Democratic Forum for School District Candidates, and then 2 neighborhood association meetings, and the SCATS meeting I just sort of dropped in there. I participated in the transit day at the Capitol and had a conversation with a constituent about our Saturday service plan. Those were the meetings. One of the things that happened, I happen to be an alumni of Western Oregon University, and I received their alumni magazine, and I'll pass this around. And in the centerfold is an article about their new Salem campus, where they're offering classes now, but featured in the article is how to get there on Cherriots buses, both a picture of our bus and text in the article. So I'll pass that down so you can see it. Also, something that I noticed, I sent out to you an article on streetcars with my report this month, and you might note that streetcars are making a major comeback in North America. In the 6-week period ending at the end of the 2018 calendar year, 4 new streetcar lines opened in the United States, and those were in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, St. Louis, Oklahoma City, and El Paso. And I'm an advocate of streetcars, like our electric bus advocate here, and I support. I feel that they would be a benefit to Salem because the streetcar line could carry as many as 8,000 passengers an hour, which would give a lot of capacity to some of our congested areas. And that sort of concludes what I did this month. So I will call on Director Thompson if we start at that end.
Thank you. Well, I did the board meeting and the work session and chamber policy meeting. Also attended the SEDCOR meeting, and that involved the FBI was the speaker talking about bank fraud and things like that. It was fairly interesting. And met with the general manager, and the STF advisory committee this month had an outstanding ethics professor. So, I don't know if you're a professor or not. Anyway, Ben was our teacher at that, and he did a really good job, better than the ones I've been to before. And we also had the kind of a first look at the coordinated plan, and we discussed maybe massaging that a little bit, but we don't have the authority to do that. Committee doesn't have authority to do that, and the state has to be involved in some way to really officially change and do any evaluation of the coordinated plan. So that'll come later, probably end of this year or maybe next year. And that's me.
Thank you. Director Rogers?
Well, I too had the pleasure of being at the board meeting and work session. And I did my neighborhood association meetings. I've noticed the dwindling numbers for some reason in the last 6 months or so, and I figured, hey, this last couple of weeks hasn't been as much rain as in other weeks, and so I got brochures for Cherriots and for the neighborhood association, started knocking on doors. Figure if I can get people to the meetings, then I can start telling them, once I got a captive audience, say, hey, less than 135 days of Saturday service, and maybe get some community involvement there. And when I was knocking on doors, I got a lot of positive reception. And so that's encouraging. We'll see what happens in the meetings. And I also had a chance to listen to 5 different candidates for school board and ask a few questions. That's very interesting and exciting to see how it's going to turn out. And let's see, you know what? That is it.
Okay, thank you. And Director Kelly?
So I was at the board meeting, the work session. We had an area commission on transportation meeting. I'll go into that in a minute or two. I thought that the city club presentation on recycling plastics was exceptional, and it may still be on CCTV so that you could replay it, because the 2 people who were there were chemical engineers, but they were chemical engineers who knew how to talk to a lay audience, and so you could understand what they were saying. It was really quite interesting. Both Victor and I enjoyed that. I did some work with my Kiwanis Club in serving coffee at the Santiam rest stop, and did some additional outreach. At the Area Commission on Transportation meeting, we went through the 11 applications for the discretionary dollars. I was having a hard time remembering what it was called. The discretionary dollars, and we forwarded 10 of the 11 applications with an okay from us. We didn't forward one of them because we thought it was presumptive to do a feasibility study and ask for money to operate the program that the feasibility study would be studying all at the same time. We also had an interesting, fairly lengthy discussion about the paving that is going to happen this summer on I-5 between the Chihuahua interchange to Woodburn on both sides. They're going to probably do as much of it as possible at night, but there will still be delays because they'll be taking down and setting up sort of close to rush time, so people they're hoping that they can get some coordination going with people using public transit, I guess, from Salem to Wilsonville to take some people off the road and then some other things. So we were able to give them some ideas about some outreach and some definite outreach that would need to be done. Because there are a couple of big things happening at Powerland Antique Heritage Park out on Brook Lake Road. Over the 4th of July, they have a reenactment, and they also have a big sort of Airstream classic trailer thing. So there would be lots of traffic coming in with the Airstreams and going out. And then the steam up at the end of July and the beginning of August, where people from all over the western part of the United States bring in all kinds of antique steam engines and agricultural equipment. And so they're, I was able to remind them to be sure to do outreach and work really a lot with the Antique Powerland folks. So that was really the two major meaty things in the meeting. We were advised either in March or April that they're doing a nationwide search for Director Garrett, who is the top exec at the Department of Transportation for Oregon, and he had announced earlier in the year his resignation effective at the end of June. So more to come on that, but that was, and we're not having a meeting next week, so I don't know what I'll have to report at the end of May.
Thank you. Director Bush?
Okay. So I was at the work session and the board meeting for April and end of March. I attended several chamber greeters meetings for Woodburn, Salem, and Kaiser. I always enjoy meeting with the constituents at the time and at those morning meetings and encouraging each other to have great days and be successful in what they're doing. I attended the Special Transportation Fund Advisory Committee meeting was there for the training that Mr. Featherston did for us for ethics. I attended the Weddell Parent Teacher Club meeting as part of being a member of our Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association, and it's fun to encourage those kids. And at our second meeting, we had Salem Electric present and Lawrence Sanitation. Again, we heard some more recycling information. And we had updates on the Kaiser Iris Fest that's coming up in May. There's going to be a kickoff party May 11th, and then the next weekend is the official Iris Fest parade and carnival in downtown Kaiser. So look that up on the Kaiser Chamber website. I went to the Marion County Commissioners Breakfast that they meet with the Kaiser City Council. They get together and say, okay, what's going on? How can we help each other out? It's always a good conversation. Then go over to the Latino Business Alliance, and they're getting more involved in our community. There's more businesses who want to be big participants in what is going on. Went to the Kaiser Fire District Board meeting, and I saw Doug at the Gubser Neighborhood Association and enjoyed the Liberty House kickoff at the Capitol for Child Abuse Prevention Month, and the YMCA's Good Friday prayer breakfast last Friday. So, and that ended up with a soggy day in the park at Kaiser Rapids Park, which was not soggy, but it was a good day at the park. So, and now I'm in the middle of helping out with outdoor school. So, and I'm done.
Thank you. Director Lincoln?
I attended the last board meeting and work session also, and the Democratic Forum, where we heard from a couple of excellent school board candidates. Salem City Club, and also thought the presentation on plastics was very good. Sat in on the Area Commissions on Transportation meeting, and then the SCATS meeting on Tuesday. And as General Manager Allen said, draft is out for public review now and comment, and if you are at all interested, I mean, it's a big document, but you can flip through to see the transit stuff, or I thought the gaps in the policy, the gaps in the system was an interesting chapter. This is I'll back up a little bit. This is a 20-year plan for transportation in the Salem-Kaiser area, and it will be tweaked and updated as, you know, sooner than, it's 25 years, 24 years actually. It will be tweaked and updated as we go along, but it gives a broad perspective of what to expect in our transportation system, what we need, and where our priorities are as we get money from the state and the federal government and local money. So it's complicated, and the financing part was particularly interesting to me because I wasn't familiar with where all the funds came from. But the gaps and needs chapter and the impact chapter I thought were interesting. I think the impact chapter is new. I don't think they had that one in the last version. But it is online, and you can make comments online. The COG is going to hold some open houses, and they're reaching out to different entities in the community to get comments. So it is it's an interesting document, and it's important, and it makes sure that people who are interested know about it and have a chance to review it. That's all. Thanks.
Kathy, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Yeah, it mentions the meetings are at the COG. Are they back in business again up there?
Are they back in, oh, yeah, well, we did have our meeting there.
So
You can
they're
see
back in
they've got
business
the carp, they got stuff going on there, and I don't, you know, they're not completely done remodeling. They might be even taking the carpet out, but they kind of move around from room
Yes,
to room.
That's
I
flooding,
think the
Yeah.
carpet is going to have to be replaced because there's some pollution in the
Moisture,
car.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
When you have flooding, it's inevitable that you're going to have some mold with carpet, no matter what you do, because it just feeds on the little particles of stuff that get in the carpet.
Director Evans?
Well, I was out of country for 12 days, so I missed the work session. Had an opportunity to go to one of the neighborhood association meetings. I met with a constituent for an hour or so. I run into Dale Penn a lot when I'm over at the Capitol, so we've chatted back and forth about what's going on with the legislature, and so that's always interesting. And then I had an opportunity to give Kevin Mannix and his crew a tour of the Capitol, and so we got on the subject of the containers being put on trains instead of, so to help the freeway a little bit. And that was my focus, that get trucks off the freeway, which would be nice. And then I was able to, from Cabo, to file my SEI report at the last minute, and they were really helpful over there to get that done. I'm doing outdoor school next week, looking forward to doing that. And because I sold so many berries at Rotary last year, I'm one of the team captains for the Bold Berry Brokers from West Salem Rotary. And so I'm out pounding the pavement, trying to sell berries. Yeah, get my team through their goals. I visited with a couple of the Salem Electric Board members. It's a little known group, but it's important to us in West Salem that we have a good board that continues their efforts, and I know both the people I talked to were interested in non-fossil fuel energy sources, so that was a good thing. We're blessed in the Northwest to have a lot of opportunities because of our hydroelectric and wind, but we want people on the board that are going to be proactive that way. I think that's about it. Yep.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. This is a short board meeting. Anything else that Yes, Director Kelly.
We have had people who have been on our board, who have been on the Salem Electric Board, and I believe Salem Electric serves a lot of Kaiser, too.
Yes, yes.
So Dennis Coho was on the Salem Electric Board at some point, and he was our board president. And I, too, apologize for coming in late. They started the meeting on student success a half an hour late, and I ended up having to leave, and they were not done yet, but I tried to scoot as fast as possible, but it was hard finding a parking place.
One last.
Yes,
I
Director.
just want to mention that I did attend the Transit Day at the Capitol and got to meet several folks there. And it was a very informative, even though it was a small number, it was still very informative and kept our entity in front of the community. So, good job, guys.
Yeah, I stopped by too, but I'm there.
So, anything else? I will then, before closing, I will say, remind everybody, we have 135 days from today until we start Saturday service. And the next meeting of this board will be on Thursday, May 23rd at 6:30 PM. And with that, we are adjourned.